All right, we're live.
Well, we're not live. This is pre-recorded, but we are recording.
I know, but we're doing it live. This isn't scripted.
Yeah, that's fair.
Anyway, yeah, this is Mari and my friend Eric again. If you may have seen us from the Oberdin tier list, we had such a fun time doing it. We thought we would try and find other ones that we could do, and we thought about doing a replica tier list for Signalis. But considering there's only 9 replica, it wouldn't be a very exciting tier list. So I thought, well, why not just make it replica ships then? Um,
Yeah.
the only thing is that if we did that for every single one, there would be 81 of them, and that's too many. That's I don't have enough interesting things to say about 81 different ships in one video. So, as a compromise, this is every ship at which there exists at least one fic of on archive of our own. I searched all of the relationship tags and put this together. With the exception of there was one Elster self ship fic that was specifically Elster 512 with herself, and I decided not to include that just because it was too specific a case.
It was definitely an outlier
Yeah,
in the point of it being specifically Elster 512, and then also this would be the only self-ship on the entire tier list, so we decided to
yeah.
exclude that one.
I'm not against replica self ship in principle, but it is kind of interesting that only one fic of it even exists. I thought there would be more,
Yes.
but I guess there just wasn't.
Yeah, I suppose the Signalis community can be a little bit specific in terms, and before anyone gets any ideas, yes, this has also been, to a certain extent, requested by certain members of the community, and therefore here we are. We also have decided against including any fan-made OC replicas. If there is a sufficient amount of interest, we might be talked into doing a second part of this, where we either where we either look at some of the hypothetical ships that do not yet have any tags on AO3, or we could do some OC couples in this sense. But again, for now, we are limiting ourselves to what already exists. So, in that sense, if your favorite pair is not on here, please blame other writers, not us.
Or you could write it yourself. You know,
Yes,
there is a creator in all of us just waiting to come out.
yes, that is true. But yeah, we have our pairs
Yep.
wonderfully set up.
Yeah,
If
I did.
you
I did my best to make little icons for them. Although they may get a little confusing. So there's an X in between each of them, just to hopefully make it a bit more
uh,
distinct.
Yeah, we tried our best to fit as much of them on the image as possible, but they still kind of look a little samey because, let's be entirely honest, a lot of the replicas do look kind of similar to a certain
I
extent.
mistake Elster and Oila a lot. I have to keep reminding myself. Elster is the one with the spearhead bang.
Yeah, she's got like that singular dagger across the face, whereas Oilers have more of a, I'm gonna say, slightly more normal sort of hairstyle. Anyway, we
Yeah,
should probably begin.
yeah. So the first one up here I have is Ara and Elster, and I haven't read a fic of them, but I honestly I instantly see it, and part of that is for headcanon reasons because I headcanon both of them as being some flavor of autistic, so they would definitely mesh well together in that sense.
Well, the thing is that we will be getting back to, we will sometimes use autistic as a sort of like semi-affectionate term. In this case, I would say this is the true kind of like hyperfixation autism. But I understand where you're coming from because Ara and Elster are the two mechanics of the bunch.
They're going to
They're
have a
the
lot in common with each other, and they'll probably be able to
yeah,
understand each other quite well.
yeah. So get ready in this video for a lot of weird comparisons from me because I will try to like put my thoughts into words. Um, Ara and Elster are like the couple that meets at like a Warhammer 40K convention and they spend their time like painting minis
Yeah,
extensively, and they also build like models of tanks and planes, even though they're not really like military buffs. They just like the models.
That's I couldn't have said it better myself. Yeah.
Yeah,
So I'm happy putting them in works well together.
yeah.
Uh, yeah.
They're not a power couple because they're both like
It's a
they
very.
strike me
I
as
feel
like
like it would
an
be a very subdued relationship. You probably wouldn't even know they were in a
yeah.
relationship unless you just asked
I
them,
was
because they
I was
probably
about
wouldn't
to
be.
say
They probably wouldn't be doing any PDAs or anything like that.
no, definitely not. I was about to say like these are the two. Uh, these are like the two co-workers that you know that work from completely like they work in completely different sort of parts of the building, but then like one day one of them invites you home and then you see the other one and is like, oh, you're married? Like what the fuck? Why did I not know this? Why didn't you tell me? It's like I don't know. It's not important to work, is it?
Hmm.
Well, you know both of us, so like, yeah. But these are like the silent couple who they've got a lot going on back home, but like in the places that you meet them, that you wouldn't know.
I feel like if you needed relationship counseling, you could probably ask one of them for advice, and they
Yeah,
would know
probably.
exactly what to do.
It would be very strange advice, but it would work.
Yeah,
You know, like very specific. All right,
yeah. So next is the soul. What's the word?
Mina.
Yeah, the sole Mina ship I found while searching all of AO3 was Ara and Mina, which,
By the way, some of you who have looked at the list ahead may have noticed that, interestingly enough, you would expect the Oiler to be the Rizzler, but apparently it's the Aura because Aura has like 8 ships.
the Ara and Oila both have 5 ships each, so they're both kind of
Is it?
super rizzed.
All right, yeah.
But I put Ara
Yeah, I
slightly
mean,
above because Ara is the only one to have a ship with Mina. So,
yeah, that's a true power move. Like, how does that even work? So Mina, Mina is often like the little pure baby girl, right?
yeah, when I wrote Mina in my fix, I intentionally made her quite childlike. Like her room literally has like giant oversized children's toys and like building blocks and whatnot. And because of that, I have a hard time seeing her in any kind of romantic relationship. I feel like that's just a bit awkward, but that's mostly just my because of my personal headcanon. So I'm interested what your thoughts are.
All right, we'll have to cut a bit there because my mom came into my room. That's fine. So, could you repeat, please?
Oh, I was just saying, my personal take on this is I have a hard time seeing them as an actual couple, mainly because of my own headcanon towards Mina. I wrote Mina's to be very childlike in my fix. Their rooms have like literally oversized like children's toys and building blocks, and those like carpets that are shaped like cities with like city streets and whatnot. I don't know
Well, I
if
wouldn't
you
go.
have those over where you live, but
Yeah, I know what
every
you
kid
mean. Yeah,
had one over here in North
yeah, of
America.
course, of course. I had one of those as well.
Hmm.
I don't see minas like that because the example of a mina that we actually get to talk to in Bio seems like
Yeah,
they're
yeah,
sweethearts.
she's extremely sweet. So I'm
Just
not going to let
perhaps they're
my
more like
personal views on it dictate my personal take dictate this. So I'm curious as to what
alright.
what your opinion mostly is.
I think this is something that I would say this this is either has potential or is better as friends because I think the relationship between an Aura and a Mina would be heavily marked by the Mina trying to like I'm not gonna say dope, but like really trying her best to have like the Aura take better care of herself
Hmm.
because Aura's take like start
Probably
the
also like
trying
get
to
her
do
to
that.
like come out more and socialize more and whatnot.
Yeah. I can imagine the start to this, which would be like I do believe that if anyone would share Ara's like love of plants, it would be a Mina.
Hmm. Absolutely.
So I can see the potential there. Um, but I I think this is somewhere between could have potential and better as friends for me,
My
because I
pick would
can't
have been
really.
better as friends, so maybe we could keep her there, keep them there.
I think we even end out like that because I can see the chemistry of like a good interaction is there. I don't think there's any. I can't really imagine a romance too
Yeah,
much.
like I said, I have a hard time seeing Mina in a relationship with anyone really. I just she seems way much too either much too motherly or much too innocent in a sense. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I I've seen other people headcanon Minas as aromantic, so I don't think it's an isolated take.
Yeah, they're just sort of like a very isolated case among even among replicas, also because of their stature and
Exactly.
general behavior,
Yeah.
which is like how would logistically that work?
I
I
mean,
like the
they'd
one
find a
take.
way. There's enough size
Yeah,
difference artists out there that could figure it out.
I mean, yeah,
Uh,
definitely. It's more like also general affection. It's stuff like I like that one animation which suggests that the visor for Minus has like an auto shut function
oh, that was
if
so
something gets too
adorable.
close to her
Yeah.
face. So, so I think that the R would have to like hold the visor open with like a wrench in order to even give the Mina like a kiss or something, which is like it's cute in its own way, but it's more of like a comical almost pairing to me.
Hmm.
And also, I don't think either of them are like expressive or active enough to have a start beyond the planned thing. So there's one way that I can see this working, and that's it.
Yeah.
Therefore, I would say better as friends.
Yeah, I agree. So next we have this was a bit of a shock to find that this existed was Ara and Storch.
Somehow, I am more surprised by Ara X Starch than I am by Ara X Mina, which is like, how? It's on,
I mean,
this
Storches are
gives
kind
off
of
a
like the
very,
opposite of Oilas, so I feel like they would just not get along very well at all, or even
they
at
would
all.
they would not get along very well, I think, generally. This gives off a very specific kind of vibe, which is like, quiet, reserved men who are really into angry, fiery women, which is, that's a trope for a reason, but I don't know if that would work in this case because I
No.
I can't imagine how this would start.
Yeah, I kind
This
of
is
want I want to
too
read I kind of want to take a look at the fic that I found this for just to see what they ended up doing, but like I got to admit I can't really see it myself.
I am curious to a certain extent, but I do not know. I don't know.
Yeah, I would put them in anti-synergy just cuz I don't even see this happening in the starting to for a disaster to happen.
Yeah, no, it's like I would say anti-synergy because I don't think that this would get like violent or anything if there was an attempt from either side, but I think it wouldn't work.
Yeah. It's
It
it's
wouldn't
just
work in
oil
the
and water.
slightest.
There's not it's not very complicated.
Yeah, it's oil and water, but there's no like at least you're not throwing like it's not like crude oil and water where there would be an explosion at the slightest spark.
Yeah.
Just in this case, opposites don't attract.
So I guess we'll move on then on to Ara and Star.
Again, an interesting pairing. I can see this one working at least because I
Stars
think,
are implied to be a lot more chill than Storches.
yeah,
And in that sense, I feel like there could be something. Plus, stars are gun nerds, and so
stars are not
I feel like
yeah,
if an I feel like since auras are mechanics and whatnot, they could probably find some bonding over that, in a sense.
yeah. I could imagine like a slightly deviant aura who prefers to fix guns, like she's a small arms repair woman, and that's how they would meet. And I think that Aura is like I think they're both like laid back enough in their own right that this would work. Also, notably, the in-game, of course, the star from the very start and the aura that we meet in the secret bunker that was added with the Krea update. Those are like the two replicas who presume. Well, the star gets out, and the aura is actively like anti-Eon,
Hmm.
which makes them like deviants in that regard, which is another connective thing.
Yeah.
So I think this is like I don't want to rank them as a power couple, even though they potentially could be. I could totally see a fic where an aura and the star make like a rebellion
Yeah.
through just finding like illegal documents
I
and with the
see.
star's like expertise. But I see this as either works well or could have potential. Like
I was
I
gonna say, they have a lot of potential, so
They have a
that's
lot
where
of
I would put them.
potential. Yeah, that's fair. I see this has more synergy than I expected it to
Hmm.
originally. All right.
Yeah. So now we have Euler and Falke. I'm probably not pronouncing either of those 100% correctly.
That was pretty close. Euler and Falca. That's fair.
Okay.
You can say it however you want. I'm not a For reference to anyone watching who doesn't know this, I have a bachelor's degree in German literature, culture, and language, like linguistics. But I'm not gonna like kill anyone over mispronouncing the replica names.
What if they call her a Yule?
I will laugh at you, but I will not kill you. I
I mean, that's
I'm
what I thought. That's
condescending.
how I thought it was said for the longest time until I actually looked it up. I'm like, oh, that makes a lot more sense because now it actually sort of
Yeah,
sounds like owl in English.
yeah. It's I'm condescending, not violent.
But anyway,
I'm of the
I'm simultaneously surprised and not surprised by this existing. I have seen people talk about Oilers having a thing for Falke. Um, I can't remember where exactly, but I'm pretty sure I saw it in a fic somewhere. Um, but I mean, I feel like
um
it would be hard to
okay.
have a bad relationship with an Oila because they're just so sweet and friendly.
Yeah,
Like,
this this uh this strikes me as that one image of like the bunny who loves his girlfriend who's 15 times his size.
yeah,
You know one. Yeah. This
oh,
is very much like a level
go away.
3 goblin falling in love with the demon princess.
Yeah.
Everything all right?
Oh yeah, I just had a notification pop up on my screen and I just shoot it away because it's going to show up on the
Yes.
video.
I didn't see it, but then again, my stream might be not like I get like a solid 20 FPS or something.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Oila and Falca, I can I can sort of see it. So the issue I have with most Falca relationships is like Falca's position and power, where it's like I always will be questioning of like how genuine is it and how much is it
Because
just
of
like Falca.
there's a massive power imbalance.
Yeah, because the question is like there is always the implication of Falca is the one who wills this into being to some extent because she
Yeah.
could literally shut it down.
Is it
So
even
there's
possible to
always,
give consent to God, basically?
yeah, effectively, like, especially a god like Falca who can take control of your mind,
Hmm.
presumably seamlessly. And
Yeah.
I will always question it, like, how this would work. This is one of the ones that I am entirely undecided on. I don't even know. Purely
Yeah.
because it's like such a large difference between the positions and the power and like how it would come about. I can see them interacting on like a relatively regular basis,
Yeah.
but I literally this is the one pair that I can't really think of anything for.
I feel like Falco would probably have
This is
like an
truly the
Oila
avant-garde
secretary or something.
practic pair, I think. I respect it, I respect it greatly if someone like makes this work. I don't know how you would make this work.
Hmm.
I think it is at this point that we should say that this list is subjective.
Oh,
We are
yeah.
not ranking. Uh, we're not saying that like if you if you like any of these pairs better than all the others, that you're in some sort of way better or worse than other people. It's just how do we feel about them,
Hmm. And none of these are meant to be digs
right?
or even praises of the individual ships either. Sometimes it can be fun to explore a bad
All
relationship
right.
and how it works. With
Uh,
slight technical difficulties in the voice chats.
it happens. This is Discord after
Yeah,
all.
we were trying to figure out where to put Oila and Falke, because
Right.
like there's
I'm not sure if
I
it
think
was
there's
on.
potential. It's just it's weird because of Falke's position within the hierarchy.
Yeah.
Like she's literally
So
viewed as a god, and like
yeah. So I was saying this before, and that is that I respect this pair.
hmm
I cannot imagine how you would make it work because the power imbalance here is so incredibly massive. But if you specialize in that, I can see this working. It's definitely what I would call the crack pair, but I don't mean that in a negative way, if that
so
makes sense.
yeah. So where do they go, or do we just need to make an entirely new tier of like this could go either way?
Um, I will be, I would say, put it in could have potential because I don't doubt that it has potential. It's just I would not be able to realize that potential.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's sort of my read on this. So again, absolutely respect anyone who makes this work and who can see how these two would interact in that way without making it weird or with making it weird and going that path. It's just I wouldn't be able to work with this.
hmm
This is not my forte.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
So next we have Oila and Calibri, which was another one I was a little interested to see when I was searching tags.
So Euler and Calibri, those are. Mm, I can see this working a little bit more than the one with Valka because the power imbalance is not quite as stark.
Yeah.
There's
The the only thing
I
the only issue I think I have is that like what do they really have in common?
That's the thing, not much. I would imagine that they might enjoy music, perhaps. They both strike so Colibris we see their like office, quote unquote, and it's like pretty gaudy, all things considered,
hmm
like very mahogany-esque. I think that Colibris enjoy music, potentially, like classical music.
They like
It's not
reading,
stated as
so
one of
I
them.
feel like, having some
Yeah,
tone music in the really light tone music in the background would be nice for that.
yeah. And also they're just like high ranking, so they probably are a little bit eccentric in that regard. Um, I think that Colibris wouldn't mind Oilers because Oilers are so sort of simple and general. And I think that that could be is a solid basis where it's like I think most other units can be a bit of a pain to deal with for Colibris, whereas Oilers are simply, like nice and normal enough. I think that at the very least they would like tolerate advances a little easier
hmm
if something came of it. The question is how would an Euler even approach a Colibri in this regard? This is one that I would see as like better as friends because I can see the Colibri like venting to the Euler
Yeah,
as a
and
therapist sort of thing.
yeah, I could see that happening too. I imagine we know from the Blockwart emails that being a Calibri can be pretty stressful and anxiety inducing.
Hmm.
So I can definitely see that. I agree with that placement. I'll put them there.
Yeah, I think that the Colibri needs kind of like like a gossip friend, which the Oiler seems to be sort of pretty good at, in my opinion. I don't see a romance per se. It could develop, I suppose, but this would be like a long burn fic, right?
Yeah.
Slow burn, long term, where this would happen
Hmm.
because the starting off position is a little rough.
Makes
Not
sense.
bad, just rough.
Yeah. Okay. Now we have potentially, I think, one of the first power couples is Oyla and Star. And I
So
will
this,
admit right off the bat that my opinion of this fic is greatly shaped by how much content there is of them. Like, I
I
feel like
think it,
that's impossible to ignore.
I think on one hand, it is determined by how much content there is of them, but on the other hand, I believe it's also because this is the one, let's say, quasi canon
Yeah. I mean,
pairing because of
considering
the
that Elster and
lines.
Ariane are explicitly canonically in a relationship, I think that the Oila and Star you see in the mines are as well.
I think that is,
I think
yeah,
their talk is way too personal and emotional for people who are just friends.
yeah, definitely. So this has the upside of that. Also, I think they just work very well together because this is the most classic like like dainty princess ex knight in shining armor that you will ever fucking see.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
It's
literally like a ballerina and a soldier, presumably, or policewoman,
Yeah, when you say it
which
like
is
that, it makes it sound like almost a very stereotypical ship, but I have a hard time actually seeing it that way. I guess maybe because they're both kind of cyborg robots, but I mean,
yeah, I think
they just seem like they work really well together.
it's the context I think that determines it, but in
Mhm.
it has that under sort of like tone to it. It's just reinterpreted with like literally Nightus in Shining Armor. In that regard, they sort of parallel Ariane and Elster themselves, who also have that thing going on
Mhm.
with literally Ariane being like, eternally asleep, um, and Elster coming to aid her. Well, quotation marks aid her. Um, so they have that sort of parallel going on almost in that regard. I don't think that's a negative thing. I think stereotypes can be they're useful, and seeing as I don't think many people would think about this like immediately when seeing the scene, I think they are sufficiently like remixed and diluted that this stands on its own. It's just I saw these parallels pretty clearly, and I think that they work. It's a very classic sort of power
Yeah.
dynamic, which I think works well.
That animation someone made of them in the elevator will live rent free in my head for the rest of my life.
Yeah, that's fair. I also like the one where the star teaches the oiler how to shoot, which is
Oh,
also
that
something
one.
that I would
Oh
use too.
god, that one is
Yeah.
Oh, oh, it's so good, but
It,
it makes me want to
yeah.
cry. Oh,
They are. I think
like I said,
another.
I love the content that these two have is so good. I can't not see them at the top
Yeah.
here.
This is a power couple, and I wanted to note additionally, they have also the big upside of these are two of the most general replica types that exist.
Yeah, oil
Like
is like
Oiler is literally.
the universal uh, replica, and Star is the universal soldier replica.
Yeah, it's literally like office woman and security guard.
Yeah.
Again, there's tons of similar concepts. It's just in this case, it's a robot lesbians, and it works. Some things just work.
Everything is
Just
better
because,
with lesbians in it.
yeah, just because it's quasi vanilla doesn't mean that it's bad. I quite like vanilla stuff anyway.
Same here.
Yeah,
All right. So now we
and
have, I don't know, maybe potentially a bit of a meme pair, but Oila and Storch. And I saw this pop up on AO3 when I was searching once. It was a fic of of an oilet doming a storch, and it was like, this is one of the most out there ideas, and yet it makes complete sense in a way, the way it was presented. Like,
Yeah, this very heavily depends on how you read the story, I think.
yeah,
Because if you read her as like what she is, I assume suggested to be, which is like genuinely pretty cruel to an extent, unless she's like, unless she's calmed down a little bit, and becomes her own person, uh, then this wouldn't work. If you go with more like the reading of, oh, she's overcompensating for something, which I see people suggest quite a bit, then this would work in the way that you said. I can see this working.
yeah,
Again, I can see this working, especially in like a long-term thing, where the story is sort of forced a little bit to deal with this woman. Because I think this would have to be written from largely the POV of the story, because
hmm,
the Euler would definitely be like the sunshine of the thing. But I can see this sort of as a one-sided enemies to lovers story, which
yeah.
is fun.
Like one thing that kind of comes to mind thinking about this is like, what does a storch do if someone is completely unaffected by their abrasiveness? How do they react to that? Because
Uh,
I feel like most oilers would like, it wouldn't affect them at all because they're
Again,
just
I think that depends. It
they're
depends
too
on the
nice to
story.
be insulted. I think in most circumstances.
Yeah, I think it would really depend on the story.
And
Also,
in,
we've
I guess
also
it's in that
always
sense that I could see them adopting a sort of dom role, just because they're like unflappable,
in
whereas
that
storches
in
are
that
see
sense.
at least are implied to be a lot more emotional and impulsive.
Yeah, they don't have much impulse control, which is kind of an interesting turn for them.
Hmm.
Which you would expect that specifically a controller, aka an overseer replica, would have some sort of restraint, but clearly they don't.
I have a feeling that
Which,
the nation probably wants a like a really mean model to serve as an enforcer.
yeah, but on the other hand, I also believe that on average, storage units can be pretty calm and cunning. Like we meet Zeben, who is
Hmm.
definitely a wizened storch. Like she
Very
has
by
seen
the
some shit.
books.
But also she's seen some shit. Like she's not like storming out there to kill everything.
Yeah.
She's almost like afraid in a way that she doesn't want to admit, which I
Hmm.
think is also the source of a lot of people having a read on storage units where they're like overcompensating for actually not being that bad because of Zeben,
Hmm.
and I can see that. This is one that I would say it's definitely an unusual one,
Yeah.
but it has potential to work. It's
Okay.
not crazy. It's I can imagine this.
I think that's pretty fair.
Yeah,
All right. And now we have the two Rizzlers together, which is Euler and Ara. And this is another one that is has a bit of canonicity behind it because the Ara's profile explicitly states that they get along well with Euler's.
largely because Oilers know how to read their faces, which is something that others struggles with.
Hmm.
Um, Honestly, I think this works well together.
Yeah, I don't think
I
there's much in the way of conflict or whatnot. The
mm,
thing that would keep them away from power couple in my case is just that it's lacking just a little bit of oomph to it. It's
yeah,
hard to explain.
I think with absolute power couple, it's more the idea of like the result is greater than the sum of its parts.
Yeah,
I think Aura and Euler are exactly the sum of its parts.
yeah,
Like they're really good, but they don't like necessarily elevate each other.
yeah. That's a
Super,
pretty
like
fair
super
assessment, I
low.
think.
There are exceptions, of course. I will note, Quinn's, I mean Zeradine's, fic, a waltz for the void.
Mm-hmm.
where this is sort of like it's not a couple, but it is sort of a central relationship couple. You know what I
Exactly.
mean? Yeah. So this is definitely it's very good. It's not quite to the point of power couple.
Mm-hmm. But next we have, I guess, one of the other sort of canon ships is Falkler, Falke and Adler.
Yeah, so this is what my poor boy Adler. Stay winning, my boy. Um, a lot of so this is divisive, of course, I think, in the community in
Cards on
general,
the table. I
because
am a
there's
lesbian, so I am inherently a little bit prejudiced against this ship. Although I there are ways in which I do enjoy it.
yeah, so again, I think this might be divisive among the people watching because on one hand, I think it's largely because of Adler, because Adler
Yeah,
in the game is not
Adler gets a
is not
lot of
a
undue hate. I think he
gets a lot
is
of flack.
he was dealt the shittiest hand possible, and he is trying his best. And I don't know if I would even call him a villain, more just an antagonist.
He's an
He
antagonist, yeah.
wants the game to end, basically. Um,
Yeah, he is not like evil. He's
yeah,
working off of what information he has. But anyway, this is not a deconstruction of Adler as a character. This is
yeah.
a
Plus, that's
branching
just
of
a
his
specific
character.
Adler, whereas we're trying to categorize
Yeah.
the idea of Falke and Adler together.
Well, we know that this is from one side, this is definitely a it's this is an interesting case because Adler
We
and Falke are like a necessary relationship almost. These are the intended power couple,
we know
I argue.
we know from the game from Adler S2301's diaries and whatnot. We know a lot about how we know a fair amount about how he feels about Falke. We don't really know what Falke feels about Adler.
Yeah, we don't. Fuck it. We don't find out
And
anything
her
about
profile
Falco.
doesn't really say it doesn't I don't even think even mentions Adler at all.
No, but that might also be because we only learn about like Adler's dependency on Falco from his replica issues overview,
Yeah,
which we
and
never
Falke
get to
doesn't
see
have a
for a
replica
couple of
issues page in game.
Yeah, she does not, which I presume is intentional because it suggested that Falco units are A, they're still relatively new, so maybe they don't have that good of an overview. And B, also like why would you be leaving this
That
stuff
would be
around?
like
This probably
ultra top secret information.
Yeah, that's literally like the Death Star exhaust vents levels of leaking information.
Yeah.
But I go with the read of like um I go with the read of this dependency might be on both sides because I think that Falke needs Adler when she is in her function as a Aeon facility leader.
Hmm.
Because for all the shit that we can give Adler, he is hyper competent. What he does very well. I I assume he's the sole administrator. He is the guy in charge of like day-to-day things. He is the executive officer, effectively.
Yeah.
Yeah, and well, Falca is the general, the commander, the head honcho, and I don't think that Aeon would design Adler with a dependency on Falca if Falca didn't have some sort of necessity from him as well.
Yeah, like
Because
is this
for all
codependency or is it just mutual dependency? That's the question.
I would argue that they both need each other because
Yeah.
I think Aeon would install some sort of like some sort of limiter in that sense to Falcons who are not actively in combat and therefore in danger of being destroyed because I think they need to retain some degree of control over them. So I think that they would make her in some way, shape, or form dependent on Adler.
Yeah.
So
So
This is an interesting ranking because how do we rank this? It is like the Aeon certified intended power couple, in my opinion. But
Yeah.
is that classified as a power couple? Because they are, I believe, both elevated over what they are individually. But like, there's the subtext of it being forced to some
Yeah.
extent. So it's like, it's like when you make two Sims in The Sims and you make them like perfect for each other. Does that make the relationship like fake
It's that
to a
question
certain
again. Can
extent?
you? Is it possible to consent to God?
Yeah, but in this case, is God consenting as well?
Yeah.
Which in this case makes it like a entirely unique case.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think the decisive thing for me is that I think Kerberos would fucking murder me and you, and
Yeah.
therefore absolute power couple,
Yeah. That's.
unquestioningly.
I don't want to die.
Put it right up there.
But to be
Yeah,
honest,
no,
I like Caro's Falkler enough that I would put them here based on that. They are
good. Yeah,
so sweet, and I like it. I like them. I
Kerberos,
also
if
like
you're
that they're
watching
both they're
this,
both presented as pretty gender fluid, so that helps a bit in
fair,
that regard as well.
fair enough. Kerberos, if you're watching this, disregard the entire discussion before this. Just look. They're an absolute power couple. That's what matters. All right.
Don't kill us.
Yeah. Or at least not now. I still have plans in life.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
Next, we
moving
have
swiftly on.
Falke and Elster, and this is a bit of a wrinkle because I'm pretty sure this was just meant to be Elster 512 and Commander Falke, and not specifically just Falke and Elster. And I mean, if it was the former, I would put them pretty high up. But if it's just generic units, I'm not sure where I would put them.
I think they fall into the same category as Euler and Falca. If we are talking about the generic units here, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but we did when we were searching for the tags, we also accepted the 512 and specifically commander tags, so that's how this got in.
Yeah.
Um, and again, we can't judge it based on what we know from Signalis. This is just purely the replica units themselves. So if we're going with the idea of, for example, LSTR dash S, dash S2301, and then F Falkler 2301 as well,
Yeah. Um,
without the events of Signalis.
One thing that I think is potentially an issue is it's kind of implied that Elsters have like war PTSD because it's told to
Yeah,
not they shouldn't see war movies.
it's
And
I
Falke
see it
is
as more
like
of a
all kind of explicitly a military commander. So in that sense I kind of want to put them in not meant to be in that regard.
I would put them in not meant to be, but I don't think it's that much of an issue what you bring up. It's more like I think these two are too professional to ever like
Yeah.
start anything because like we know that the Elster at Sierpinski was meant to be like a mining overseer, something like that. And I just think they're both like Falca. We don't know too much about Falca, but believe that Falcas are meant to be to a certain extent stoic and like collected, while also being sort of like cordial, is what I would imagine. She doesn't strike me as like overly militaristic from her diaries, and people talk largely positively about her. So I imagine that she is seen as sort of like a, mama in a certain extent. But that's
Yeah.
partially also because of her bioresonance. That's what makes Falca very difficult to like rank in general. But I think this is like CEO and regional manager who
It's
both take their
just
job seriously.
yeah, there's just too much going on there.
I think they would meet, but only professionally. There
Yeah.
would be nothing there.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. Okay. And last Falke ship is Falke and Calibri. And I am 100% biased in favor of the ship. I have written it a fair amount, and I think they're just really really nice together. I feel like if Falke was wanting a more intimate connection, I feel like with Calibri would be the best fit for her, just because they both share what it's like to be bioresonant in that sense.
Yeah, to a certain extent. I think you can write this either as very like nice or as very bad, depending on how you feel that day.
Yeah,
Um, because
because there
because
is
there
a
is
bit
that
of that.
very
Is there codependence going on here?
there is a very explicit subordination where it's
Yeah,
like the Colibris are on one hand they're meant to stabilize Falca, I believe,
yeah,
because if something goes awry, they're supposed to be like the safety net. That's why there's so many of them
hmm,
um, around her. But on the other hand, there is a very clear idea of if Falca really wanted to make them do what she wanted,
then she
she
could.
would absolutely be able to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, and
So
it was
there, yeah,
interesting to write around that sort of issue in the writings I did of them. I don't think I brought it up explicitly, but like there's definitely a current of like they have to make it work, but they also want
yeah.
to make it work.
I think that Colibris are, without a doubt, either the first or second replica type that Falca would go to if she found herself in any need of
Hmm.
such a thing. Mm, I don't see it quite as power coupley as Adler, largely just because I do believe that the Colibris are inherently, while they are subordinates to Falca,
Yeah,
I do
they
believe
can
that
work on their own, but
she,
they're meant to work
well,
with a Falke.
yeah, but the thing is, I believe that part of their job as Falca's like adjutants and her personal guard is also to keep her in check, so they're not like there's a certain sort of undertone of distrust that I feel to these things, where it's like if Falca approached a Colibri with wanting to be in a relationship, there is like a 50-50 chance, depending on who's writing, that the Colibri reciprocates or that they immediately alert Aeon.
Hmm.
It's like how, um, to use to use somewhat dated comparisons, it's like how the emperor's personal guards in Rome were equally as much there to fucking murder him if he started being an annoyance.
Yeah, like how many emperors were killed by Praetorian guards? I'm curious. I'm
More
gonna
than
look
you
it up
think.
on my phone.
Yeah, do look that up. Anyway, yeah, I think there's that certain undertone to this, which you can choose to entirely ignore. I'm not gonna like hold that against anyone. Um, and you can just read it as like these two have a lot in common, which they do. They have more
According
in
to
common than
Wikipedia,
anyway.
there are 13 entries in Roman emperors murdered by the Praetorian Guard.
Does it say you can help this list by expanding it?
Uh, no, but it does says this list may not reflect recent changes, which is almost as funny.
That is equally as funny. I shall accept this.
Yeah. So
Anyway, yeah,
where do we put these two?
I think given the fact that it's only a 50-50 flip, I would say works well. They
Yeah.
have a lot in common. It's just that one sort of decision that you make. You could make a really, really mean twist if you wanted to in a story like this.
Hmm.
Don't you go
Thinking
getting ideas?
noises.
Unsettling, ominous thinking noises.
All
That's what
right.
I get out of. All right, well,
Calibri and
here's
Adler.
another. So here's another one that is uh, gently, well, people believe that it's gently alluded to in the game. This is definitely sort of again, your read here, because we do know that Adler apparently gets along with one Colibri in particular, which is
Yeah.
somewhat unusual, as the Colibris are suggested to be sort of like the closest thing to a hive mind. So the specification of like this one Colibri getting along with Adler is strange,
Yeah.
unusual, and some people like to read into it a romantic subtone, which I don't blame them. It's very specific.
I
Um,
personally didn't read into it, but that might just be because I'm a lesbian.
again, yeah, I think there's a certain anti-man bias, which I can't really blame too much. It's just I find both readings to be good in their own right. I think that Colibri and Adler could work as a romantic pair, but they also have the correct kind of like shithead sibling energy that could be brought out through this,
Hmm.
where it's like it could really go either way because they're very sort of like mildly critical of each other.
Yeah.
Like
Plus,
we
they're
hear
both
about,
kind of, in a sense, I feel like in a lot of situations they're both kind of competing for Falke's attention or even affection.
yeah, this is a crazy love triangle.
Yeah.
The only way out of it is for Falca to be left alone, and then Adler and Colibri just get together. Again, I can see this working. I think they would work pretty well together if they started something. It would be entirely against Aeon rules. They would both die, but that's, I mean, worth it? Question mark.
I honestly want to put them in disaster waiting to happen because I'm not saying that it would guaranteed happen, but if there was a blow up, this would be like a I think several units are getting decommissioned and replaced kind of blow up.
Um, well, I saw the disaster waiting to happen more like a disaster between the two of them waiting to happen. If we are talking realistically on like a larger scale, then yeah, this would blow up.
Hmm.
This would blow up horrendously, but on the relationship scale, I think they would work. So this is like a special case in my opinion, where we disagree on the placement in this list. I would almost put like an asterisk behind it and say, well, this realistically disaster,
Yeah.
but like emotionally, sort of relationship wise, chemistry wise, works well.
Yeah.
This is definitely the Romeo and Juliet pairing. So pick your poison. You can put it in disaster if you want to.
I'll be a bit diplomatic though, and I'm just gonna. Oh, wrong
The
button.
entire word waiting disappeared.
There we go.
Oh, there we go. Yeah,
All right,
yeah.
and now
So
we have Calibri and Star.
so this is another pair where I'm just like not entirely sure I ever thought about this.
Yeah, I've never thought about these two together before. I saw that there were fics of them.
By and large, I never thought about this because of the star. Like I could see it maybe working, but the star has, like in the star's description, it says that they have a very sort of rigid hierarchy idea,
I
like
I think this
soldier
has the
class.
same issue of Falcon and Elster, where they're just way too professional. Stars are very hierarchical. They're seemingly very duty bound. Calibri are like basically built to be officers, and
Yeah.
I just there's just too much of a barrier between them. I think.
This does not have the same energy as Euler and Colibri, by the way, because I don't think that the Colibri would ever willingly talk to a like sort of semi-direct subordinate about personal issues. Like
Yeah,
never in a million years. These two would not these would just not talk about things because one of them is a literature nerd, the other's a gun nerd. They would not have anything to say to each other.
yeah.
These
So
are purely professional.
I mean, is that not meant to be your anti synergy then?
I don't think they I don't think they dislike each other. I
Yeah.
think they are just not meant to be. This is definitely like a purely professional relationship.
Hmm. And this is probably going to be my most controversial opinion on Calibri and Storch. I'm going to say this 100% affectionately. This is not a dig. I think this pairing is a disaster waiting to happen. I created that tier with the ship in mind.
Yeah, you told me as much before we recorded this. I'm largely neutral on this pairing, honestly. Like, I think this falls into either better as friends or not meant to be. If we do insist on pairing them up, I can see why you would say disaster waiting to happen because these two,
I feel
again, these two,
like there's gonna be a point where Calibri intentionally or unintentionally reads Storch's thoughts. They have a conversation and it's brought up, and Storch does not take having her mind. I feel like Storches would not take having their minds read very well, even unintentionally.
yeah. And then there is the
I think the
issue of like,
abrasiveness is too high for someone as inherently empathetic as a Calibri.
yeah, that's the thing that we didn't really bring up before because it wasn't super relevant before, but we do know that all bioresonant units have a tendency to like reflect and amplify emotions around them. We are told
Exactly.
that the colibris are trained to avoid this. So that's why I didn't bring it up with like Euler or Star because I think those two are general and laid
They're
back
very
enough that it
room
would not be an
temperature.
issue.
Storch
Yeah.
is like a pot of water just about to boil.
Yeah.
So a
And
little bit more, and I think you have a disaster on your hands. Not saying I
I
don't
think
like the idea of them together. Again, this is 100% affectionately, but that's where I'm putting them.
this is definitely sort of the we all know that one pair which like scream and fucking throw shit at each other and then 5 minutes later they're okay again.
Yeah,
And you're like, how do you work? How are you together? And they're just like, I don't know, we love each other. That's what matters. And it's like, yeah, but what the fuck? Like, how many
exactly.
plays do you go through? More than you'd think. And it's, good thing they're both highly paid, presumably, because half of Calibri's books are gonna end up soaked in Storch's bath water.
Yeah, and they do have that in common. They're both literature nerds. It's just kind of implied that they're different kinds of literature nerds.
That is the thing, like, one pair that I didn't, that does not exist, which I could potentially see working to a certain extent, is Adler and Storch, because they're both nerds in
Hmm.
that specific way. Because I can totally imagine them, like, having like a bath, not necessarily in the same bathtub, but just like in proximity, and they're both reading something just like silently, and it's the best day for both of them.
Yeah.
That is something that I could imagine that which is not on here, but that's like one of the rare cases where I was expecting a pairing and I didn't see it.
Fic writers, if you're watching this and you agree, you know what to do.
Yeah, I'm gonna do it. I'm working on like two things at once.
Ooh, can't wait to see. All
I'm
right, well,
continuing the chapter. Yep,
last one for the day is Star and Storch. And
I can
this
see this.
also has a bit of canonicity behind it, but more of a, I guess, almost kind of a mentor student kind of thing. It's a, you they say you pair inexperienced Storches up with an experienced Star who can keep them in line.
Yeah, exactly. Which I find interesting because this suggests that even though storage units are technically placed above stars in hierarchy, there is a lot more leniency than
Yeah,
with
it's kind of got
Calibri.
a junior officer and senior NCO vibe.
Yeah,
Whereas
I can
like the
honestly,
junior officer is technically a higher rank, but the NCO has probably seen, I mean, definitely seen more action and has participated for much longer than the junior officer. So there's kind of a bit of back and forth going on where the senior NCO is kind of expected to like, okay, here's everything you didn't learn at West Point, kind of thing.
yeah, effectively. If I had to summarize this ship, I don't dislike it. I actually quite enjoyed the idea, but in my mind, it keeps playing out as like buddy cop, but they are fucking.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with that. That's pretty apt.
Buddy cop, but there's a lot of lesbian sex going on in the background.
I would watch that.
Uh, Hey, Hollywood, hire me.
Like I said, you can
Huh.
make anything better by just lesbianing it.
Anyway, yeah, honestly, I think these would work.
Yeah.
Honestly, we put Colibri and Star into Not Meant to Be. I think Star and Storch are perfectly fine. This is
So
a slightly slight this is a slightly unusual pairing when it comes to like what you see, but they work fine together, I think.
so works well together then.
Yeah, works well.
All right.
That's what I'm gonna say.
Totally fair. Well, and there's
All
our
right.
list. Um, Again, I'm perfectly open to doing more of this in the future if people are interested. Writers, if you want us to think about other ships, uh, play fill in the blanks and give us pairs that we haven't seen yet. Uh,
Yeah, suggest things and we will give our thoughts about things. As you can see, I believe that everyone who watches this video will be surprised by at least one of the pairs on here, like being present. Um, so really, there's a lot more that you can do. Like we said, there's like what, 81 pairings, you said?
Potentially, yes.
Pot-
And that
Potentially,
includes
and we
a
have
ship
like
pairing replica with themselves.
fair enough, yeah. And we made like we only looked over 16 of them today. There's a lot of weird things that you can come up with.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, again, personally, I expected Storch and Adler, but that was not on here. So if you want more fun ideas, suggest them. Or like if you've been toying around with a pairing and you're not sure if it's a good idea, or like if you need a basis, suggest that. We can do that.
Make Ara
And of
even
course,
more of a Rizzler by pairing her with everyone,
including herself. I've seen art.
especially herself.
I have seen art. Much art. Sometimes involuntarily. Mostly involuntarily.
It does happen.
You don't want to know what goes on in those vents. More than you'd imagine. But yeah, anyway, again, this is
I hope everyone
this is
enjoyed watching and listening.
yes. And please, in the comments, besides suggesting other replica pairs or even OCs, we don't really care that much about what you give us here. Um, do mention how badly you want us to be mauled for some of these opinions,
Yeah,
or how much of a gentle kiss on the forehead we deserve for finally validating your opinion on some of these.
yeah. And both of us are writers, so if you're interested in seeing our personal takes on some of these ships, check out our AO3 pages. I'll put them in the description
Yes,
below.
yes. I am, notably, the author of the second longest fic in the fandom. I don't talk about that too much because it's old news.
And
But
I
if
write
you've
the
ever wanted
equivalent of
to,
tear gas being sprayed into your eyes.
yes, pepper spray from 5 centimeters away. How much is that in inches?
Like 2 1/4?
Yeah, more or less. Yeah, so if you've ever wanted to get pepper sprayed mentally and emotionally, you can read her stuff. And if you need a warm refuge of weird shit happening, but also wholesomely, then you can return to me afterwards. Don't worry, we
Something
don't
for
judge.
everyone.
Yeah, we don't judge. We're the weirdos here.
Well, again,
But anyway,
I hope everyone has a wonderful day,
or night.
or evening, or morning. Time zones are weird.
Yeah. I hope you have a great tomorrow, yesterday, and today, everyone.
And the day before
Sleep.
yesterday.
And the day after tomorrow.
I still think that was an okay movie.
Uh, really, it's a matter of perspective.
Anyway,
But anyway,
we'll see you all next time.
hopefully, unless we don't wake up tomorrow. But yes, For the time being, that's all
If we
from us.
do not show up again, it is because Caro has probably killed us.
Um, yeah, yeah, yeah. He turned us into bunnies, probably.
Fair.
Well,
Deserved.
but yes, yeah, entirely deserved. Anyway, that will be all for today, everyone. I hope we didn't keep you up too long with our rambling, and we will be signing off now.
Take care
Definitely.
and stay hydrated.